Video connectors explained. There are so many different ways to connect video sources to TVs and monitors these days, and it can get confusing, especially because so many of these ports and connectors have become obsolete over the years. This means that there are a lot of devices out there in the world with many different types of video connections. But what are the difference between them all? Which one do we need to care about? Here we'll explore the most prominent cable types of today and when you may want to use each one. VGA. The Video Graphics Array, VGA, is one of the oldest connection standards which can still be found in large swaths of computing equipment. It was first developed by IBM and introduced in 1987. It was used widely for video cards, TV sets, computer monitors and laptops. VGA can support resolutions up to 640 × 480 in 16 colors, although you can increase the colors to 256 by lowering the resolution to 320 × 200. The VGA cable can carry RGBHV video signals, red, green, blue, horizontal sync and vertical sync. The VGA socket is made up of 15 pins in 3 rows of 5 pins and typically colored blue. The cable socket is securely attached to the device using 2 screws, one on each side of the socket. It is rarely used today and is mostly found on older hardware, having been largely replaced by the digital DVI and HDMI connections, which we will discuss later. DVI. More than a decade after IBM introduced VGA, the Digital Display Working Group launched the digital successor DVI in 1999. DVI, which stands for Digital Visual Interface, can transmit uncompressed digital video in one of 3 different modes. DVI-1 integrated combines digital and analog in the same connector. DVI-D digital supports digital signals only. DVI-A analog supports analog only. In order to prevent forced obsolescence of VGA devices, DVI was developed to support analog connections using the DVI-A mode. This meant that DVI connections and devices could be backwards compatible with VGA connections. Mini DVI. Apple is famous for always trying to make their devices thinner and lighter. Most people think of this as a relatively recent development, but they have been at it since at least 2006 when they decided to move on from the mini VGA port. In its place, they developed the mini DVI connector. It was included in the PowerBook G4, Intel-based iMacs and MacBooks and Xserve. The mini DVI doesn't support dual link connections and so was always limited to resolutions of 1920 × 1200 or less. This, in conjunction with advancing technology, led Apple to discontinue the use of mini DVI in 2008 and replace it with mini DisplayPort connections instead. HDMI. HDMI or High Definition Media Input is a proprietary but wildly successful digital audio and video transfer interface. HDMI was created by a group of electronics manufacturers including Sony, Sanyo and Toshiba to transfer video uncompressed and audio either uncompressed or 8-channel compressed to computer monitors, digital TVs and DVD or Blu-ray players. As of HDMI 1.4, it can support 24-bit uncompressed audio at 192 kHz and video resolutions up to 4096 × 2160, which is also known as 4K or Ultra HD. As HDMI uses the same video format standards as DVI, the two are compatible through an adapter. As no signal conversion is necessary, there is no loss of quality either. There are three commonly used HDMI connectors. Type A is the full-sized HDMI connection for use on TVs and home theater equipment. Mini HDMI Type C is commonly used on laptops and tablets, while Micro HDMI Type D is mostly used on mobile devices. DisplayPort. DisplayPort is a digital display interface developed by the Video Electronic Standards Association (VESA). DisplayPort can carry digital video and audio, making it functionally similar to HDMI. However, HDMI and DisplayPort were designed for different markets. While HDMI was made primarily for home entertainment, DisplayPort was designed for connecting computing devices to monitors. Due to their similar functionality, it is possible to connect DisplayPort and HDMI devices together using a dual-mode DisplayPort adapter. DisplayPort operates using packet data transmission, which is commonly used in Ethernet and USB connections, and that's what makes it ideal for use in computing as opposed to home entertainment. Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is an interface used to connect peripheral devices to a computer. It was originally developed by Intel under the name of LightPeak and used optical cables for data transfer, hence the name LightPeak. After extensive testing, Intel found they could make it cheaper with copper cables without impacting performance. Apple was the first manufacturer to bring Thunderbolt to the market in their MacBook Pro models in 2011. When Thunderbolt debuted, it was able to use the MDP connector that Apple had created, meaning the new connection would be backwards compatible. One of the biggest advantages of Thunderbolt over DisplayPort is the high speed of data transfer.